Hey guys, Mr. Corbin again, back with Miss Powell, and we are continuing to look at rational and irrational numbers. Now, if you remember on the last video, Miss Powell and I were showing you how to tell if a number is rational or irrational. Well, another thing that you really need to know how to do is how to order those on a number line. And so, Miss Powell, I think we have a number line right here, and you've got the sheet that we were using to tell whether those numbers were rational or irrational. So, you want to tell us a little bit about our number line?
Okay. Well, when you're looking at a number line, the one that you pulled up is just 1 through 20, which
Right.
will let us fit most of the numbers that we got off the sheet. Now, if I ask you to put square root of 14 on that number line, honestly, I'm not for sure where that would be until I turn it into a decimal representation. So when I turn it to a decimal representation, then my decimal is about 3.7. So it's always easier to turn your numbers into a decimal. Even if you have something like a fraction, try to turn your number into a decimal, and that's usually the easier way of figuring out your placement.
Right, and I teach the same thing in my class too, Miss Powell. No matter what they give you, they may give you a square root, they may give you a fraction, they may give you a decimal, whatever it is, rational or irrational, turn it into a decimal. Just like Miss Powell said, when you have a calculator, that's always going to be your easiest, and they have to be in the same form to be able to see which one's greater.
And which to compare.
Right.
So one thing that's kind of confusing for students is every number that you could ever think of, no matter what you ask me to do, they will always have a decimal representation, but they will not always have a rational representation. Just depends if they're rational or irrational. So if you were just going to look at the first few couple of digits, 3.74, you know that's going to fall in between 3 and 4. That since 3.7 is bigger than 3.5, then I say go over there to your number line and put it closer to the 4.
Okay, so we know it's going to be bigger than 3 because it's 3 plus 0.74. And 0.74, well, that's almost 3/4, right?
Right.
So what I think of, and I always teach it, I always think students, okay, here is 1/2, like 3.5 is right here in the middle. Well, I know that 0.7 is greater than 0.5, and so I'm just going to put that right there.
And if you put that on there, that's where you would put square root of 14 if you're going to label it.
Right, and I think that's really important, Miss Powell, is to label that. Do you want to label it above or below? How do you teach it?
Either way, but I think you'll have more room maybe below it.
Okay. Did you say that just because I'd already put it below?
Yes. So, square root of 156. Again, without turning into a decimal, I would not be for sure where that thing goes, which I would know that square root of 156 is bigger than square root of 14 since it's underneath the radical and it's bigger.
Right.
Still, it's not until I find out what the decimal is at 12.4899. So that's going to be bigger than 12,
right?
But this is less than 13.
Right.
Now, 12.5 falls in the middle, so I would say a little bit underneath the 12.5.
And we'll say about right there.
Yeah.
Now, you said something that was...
Can it change colors?
Do you want it a different color, Miss Powell?
I want
Miss Powell, my color was not good enough for you, Miss Powell, and so now I have to go back and try to come up with another color.
Ooh, yep, I like it.
Well, you don't have to like it. I'm going to make it like this because I know how picky you are, but here we go. So it's going to be right in that area. Now, you said something vocabulary-wise a while ago, Miss Powell, I don't think that we've covered. You called our square root symbol here a radical.
Right.
And so it could be called a radical symbol or a square root. We know it's square root because we're looking for the square root, but it could also be a cube root or a fourth root or any root. So we know that that little number right there is a 2, is what you're trying to say.
It's kind of like a radical is the name of the whole family.
Right.
But when you say square root, then you're picking out a specific radical that you want with that specific name.
All right. So, and we're going to call this square root 156, right, Miss Powell?
Mm-hmm.
And I made it a different color just for you.
Oh, yeah. And you use that paint pen, but I think you can always use the pen.
Miss Powell, who's running the pen?
Okay.
Who's running the pen, Miss Powell?
Now, unfortunately, the number line that you have, we can't do 25.006, which I guess you could if you went to the very end and made your number line a little bit longer. Maybe.
So what you're saying is we've got 25. It's a little over 25, but our number line only goes to
Right.
20 here.
So
I'd have to go
extend it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and
Yep.
I'd have to extend it out here a little bit. Okay,
And change
so
the color.
and I'm not going to do that, Miss Powell. There's 25 right there. See, Miss Powell, she's bossy. Miss Powell is bossy. So at 25, a little over 25 is going to be right there. And we're going to say that that's what? 25.006.